All right, what you guys do there?
All right. Hey, Taiwan. It's Jason Cruz. I write for MMA Payout. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. First things first. What's in that smoothie?
Uh, so it's water and frozen fruit. So berry, strawberry. It's like a berry mix. And
Okay.
then there's some Frutargo,
Oh,
carbohydrates. And then there are four different types of fat: flax oil, hemp, uh, omega 3, and coconut oil.
that's a lot of stuff in there. Do you drink one of those every day?
Yeah, I like to use them as a meal replacement. Like fats and carbs
Mhm.
are uh, a good source of a lot of energy.
Mm.
So if I didn't have time to eat breakfast or I just didn't feel like cooking, I'll make a smoothie and uh, drink that before practice, and I usually have enough energy to get through the practice session.
Gotcha, gotcha. So how is training camp going? Or has it gone? How has it gone?
Good. The hard part is over.
Hmm.
I think this was probably one of the hardest camps that I've had uh, since I've been a professional, since I've turned pro. Uh, I think that, yeah, one of the hardest camps, and I think that it's been good. A lot of ups and downs. We've seen it all this camp. We got beat on this camp,
Hmm.
and we had some battles this camp, and we didn't also beat on people towards the end of the camp.
That's
So
always good. That's always good. So, what about it was the hardest part about the camp? What made it different from other ones?
uh, just my training partners.
Okay.
Uh, you got guys like Justin Gaethje, you got uh, Rafa, who's in the UFC at 55, a pressure fighter. You got guys like Sanhagen with angles. You know, you got guys like Carrington Banks, who's probably one of the best MMA wrestlers you'll ever have a chance to train with. And those are my rounds. No such thing as an easy round. Uh, so I think with that, it's like that made a huge difference. Uh, and those guys know how to push you without hurting you. And then at times they'll just take you to some dark places. And I think that's the difference in this camp from every other camp is that like every other camp since I've been a pro is that like I'm not necessarily the biggest alpha male in the room. Like on any given day, somebody will smoke you. You know, and it's just that that alone makes camp difficult, especially when you're doing it for 9 weeks.
Yeah.
You're preparing for a fight for 9 weeks, and every day, whether it's grappling, whether it's wrestling, whether it's kickboxing, whether it's full MMA sparring, you're gonna have a problem on your hands. So
Yeah. So tell me, was there any? Do you talk after practice about just kind of the mindset about how to deal with stuff like coming off of a loss? I mean, did you flush it, or do you just kind of learn from it, or did it kind of was it kind of not a null thing because Wilson didn't make the weight?
I've I struggled with that. I struggled with that. And to be honest, I'm probably just starting to get over that last fight. Uh, because one, it's like, how are you judging fights? Is it control and damage, or is it rabbit punches and failed submission attempts? Like how are you judging fights? Uh, but I think at the end of the day, it's just like what kind of helped me wrap my mind around it and helped me get past it was that the fact that I had three people that I think that are really good fighters, and I think that they know fighting pretty well. Who's Usman, Kamaru Usman, Justin Gaethje, and Sandhagen, you know, they all told me, like, I don't think you lost that fight. You know, they say you didn't do enough to win, but you didn't lose the fight. You know, and that just means that, like, I probably could have pushed a little harder. I probably could have did a little bit more, you know, but if you're judging by criteria, you know, like, you didn't do enough to win, but you also did not lose that fight, you know. And I think that's something that I trust their opinion. You know, a lot of people told me, like, oh, I don't think you lost that fight, you know, and it's just like, you know, they could just be telling you what you want to hear. But those guys are going to give it to you straight, you know, like, hey, man, you probably could have did more as far as output. But losing that fight, I don't think you lost that fight. So that alone allowed me to kind of put it in the past of, like, you know what, I'm gonna get it back. You know, like, he's gonna have to fight me again. You know, and I think that we know what's going to happen. I've 10 times the fighter I was since that fight. That fight helped me grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the only way I could look at it. That fight happened for me, and it didn't happen to me. You know, those judges scored that fight the way that they did for me, and they didn't judge it, you know, like, score it to me, you know, like, to do something to me. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still me.
Yeah. So when you're working out and training with Usman, Gaethje, Sandhagen, the likes of that, do you just kind of absorb what they do, how they go about their business? Do you chat them up about what they're doing, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, or do you just kind of put your head in the ground and just work? I mean, put your head down and just work.
You know, I think that I take a lot from those guys, you know, and I ask questions, and, you know, they tell me when I'm wrong and they tell me when I'm right. And, you know, like, I offer my insight on wrestling for certain guys, and they offer me insight on striking, and demeanor, and cage awareness. And, you know, like, when you're with a team like Elevation, you're constantly getting quality information from different guys. You know, guys are always going to point something out. You know, you're not doing this, man, you're doing this really well, you need to do more of this. You got to stop doing this. You can't think like that, you got to think like this. You know, when you have that, it changes who you are as a person and who you are as a fighter. You know, it helps grow your mentality. It helps shave off things that you don't need, and add things that you do need. So I think it's a lot of learning. You know, you're learning from guys, they're learning from you. You know, and so, yeah, I've taken, there's certain things that I've taken from Corey that I feel like has changed my ability to throw more, to up my output. And then there's things that I've taken from Gaethje that has changed my ability to see fighting in a completely different way. You know, I think that when you have high level guys that not only are you pushing, but they're pushing you, and you're competing with every day, it's going to change who you are as a person, you know, who you are as a man, who you are as a fighter. And I've settled in over the last year here, and I think that I'm a completely different fighter for sure than I was the last fight and any other fight. So you know, I think that alone, just being around these guys is iron sharpens iron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm around some tough people, so you know,
Yeah.
I have no choice but to be tough.
I got you. So tell me a little bit about your opponent for next week. I think he was a former LFA champ. What's your thoughts on him?
I think he's a tough wrestler. I think when I look at him, I see bits and pieces of myself in there, and how I've approached certain fights. I see bits and pieces of that in him. You know, like, I see that. So I see why they want to make this fight.
Mm-hmm.
But, you got two guys who are wrestling heavy, and I think that in exchanges, he's going to count on his wrestling. But he also hasn't fought in a year, so I'll probably get a different version of him as well. But at the end of the day, I think that he's, of course, he's undefeated, so he's tough, but there are levels to tough. You can be the toughest guy in one organization, then you get to another organization and you're not that tough, So I think that this is kind of a filler of Bellator trying to decide, like which of one of these guys are we gonna push heavy.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in and he beats me, then it's like, all right, this guy has done some things inside of our cage that, we value. And then it's like, once I beat him, it's like, all right, this guy is still one of the top guys that we have, overall. So that's how I see this fight. But again, I think he's tough, but it's like, who are you tough against?
Right.
It's like, like he hasn't fought an Emmanuel Sanchez or a Wilson or, he hasn't fought certain level guys.
Yeah.
Even though he's trained with high level guys, it's like, it's different when that high level guy is trying to take your head off and he's showing you absolutely no mercy.
Okay.
It's different. So I think that he's tough. I think that it's going to be a tough fight, but I think that I'm going to break him. Like I'm going to break him. So I prepared to break him, and I'm pretty sure, like I've watched one of his interviews where he's like, I'm doing the extra sprints and the extra runs. And it's like, you can do everything right and still lose a fight.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that the last fight, like switched gyms, went to elevation, got a team around me, stopped doing my own thing and still lost the fight, So I think that he's tough. I think he's going to come prepared. I think that his cardio is going to be on point, but I think that it's going to take a lot more than a tough guy with good cardio to beat me. He's going to have to match my toughness, and he's going to have to match skill for skill. And of course, with that, I think that he's going to see that my cardio is there too. And although people think that Emmanuel Sanchez laid that blueprint of like pressure him. It's harder to pressure me when you're in there with me. Yeah. Like your coaches can be saying, move forward, pressure him. But when I start throwing, you'll see real fast that it ain't as easy as move forward, pressure him. So I think he's tough. I think it's going to be a tough fight. But I also think that I'm at a point where as long as I go out there and I just do my thing, that's all I have to do is just go out there and do my thing. He won't be ready. He won't be ready for the best version of myself at that moment in time.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting fight, and I'm I'll be watching next week. And so I wanted to ask you two last questions. So I saw the thing about you turning down a job for $250,000 a year. I know you were working last time I interviewed you. You're working on an app. You got so much outside interest, but it seems like you're have a central focus on fighting. What was that all about the job offer and things like that, and that whole thing last year?
So, I think that for me, fighting isn't about fame. It isn't about, like the perks. It's all about money. Like I didn't grow up with much money. Like I grew up with a single mom, and, I've had a job since I was 12 years old, and it's like everything that I do, I fight for money. I don't fight for any other reason. Like I don't work for any other reason. Like people say that money's not everything, but those people that say that either had money or grew up with money or didn't, didn't really have to worry about it. Those are the type of people that say that, and for me, money's everything. So of course I'm going to have my foot in this. I'm going to have my foot in that, and I've had different job offers and different. I've worked with different tech companies, and of course, you know, like being African American and, you know, understanding code and knowing how to code, you know, like there's a market, you know, that for minorities that are able to do things like that. And it's like I enjoy the lifestyle of fighting, like no one ever telling me what to do. You know, like I'm a rebel. I don't like to be told to do. You know, I don't like jobs, like having to report to somebody, and you know, like I don't like it. But at the end of the day, I do like money. You know, so that's what it comes down to. And so I've had one foot in and one foot out. It's like whatever can make me rich the fastest, whatever can help me reach my financial goals the fastest is the route that I want to take. And it's always good to know that you can take whatever route that you kind of want to take. And that's actually a change that I made this camp because of my coaches here at Elevation. You know, they're like, listen, man, you're on two different roller coasters. Fighting has its ups and downs, and being a self-taught developer has its ups and downs. Like there's divs and flows in both forms of life. It's like you're never in a stable position. So one thing that I actually did for this fight camp is to focus on fighting. Usually throughout every camp that I've had so far, I would wake up, I would code for 3 to 4 hours, and then I'd go and train. And then if I had enough energy when I got home, I would code. You know, like my entire life is work. And then for this camp, it was like, all right, just code on the weekends. You know, like if you feel like it, like don't put a time frame on yourself. You know, like don't feel like you absolutely have to. Like for this fight, I want you to put your attention towards fighting and put your energy towards fighting. And it's something that I agreed to do. Because I said, all right, you know, I'll give it a try. But at the end of the, and I think that it's paid dividends in forms of like where I started this camp and where I'm at right now in this camp, you know, in life and as a fighter, I was able to stay a little bit more balanced, you know, the ups and downs aren't as heavy. And I'm able to focus on the small details that I kind of need to focus on as a fighter, getting ready to go fight. And so I'm excited to see how that pans out, being on one roller coaster instead of two. And maybe that's the answer for me to be at my best, you know, the best version of myself. But then also if that's the answer, then it's like, well, now I just have to get paid more money to fight. You know, like at the end of the day, what it comes down for me, like it will ever, no matter what, it will always come down to how much money can I make? You know, like money is security. You know, there are other things in life outside of money. I get it, you know, but money is the biggest issue for me. And that's why I move the way that I move, you know. But for this fight, I listened to the coaches. They said, hey, man, I think that let's just try it this way. I want you to try it this way and see how you feel, see how things go.
Awesome.
So I dropped one of the roller coasters, and how I probably coded a total of 12 hours in the last 9 weeks, you know, so.
Still a lot. That's still a lot.
Yeah, no. You know, if you do 4 hours a day, you know, you're looking at 20 hours a week if you think 5 days a week, you know, so to only do 12 hours, it's like you're barely doing anything. You're doing an hour and a half. Hell, your brain doesn't even lock in for the first hour, you know?
Yeah, gotcha.
So I decided to jump just to see how it will pan out.
Yeah.
How it will pan out if I give my full attention and my full energy to just fighting throughout a fight camp.
But well, yeah, definitely. Good luck, Tywan. I really appreciate your time. Last question: Did the Browns do enough in the off season to defeat Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes? Did they do enough?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, when you got a team led by OBJ, you know, and Juice and Mayfield, you know, you're gonna have a problem. You know, like think of culture, you know, think of the culture, you know, that these guys are bringing. And you saw it last season, and now it's easier for people to buy in on the team and really want to push and really want to work harder when they see that like the same guys that's telling them to do it is coming back from injuries like OBJ is coming back. It's coming back from hip surgeries like Juice is coming back. You know, like it's pushing through all these things and still getting after. You know, so I think they did, man. We Super Bowl bound.
All right. It'll be it was a great game. The AFC Championship. You predict Chiefs and Browns. Whoever's going to be lose to the Seahawks anyway. So, hey, thank you so much, Tywan. Thank you, Colin at Bellator, for the time. Good luck next week. And again, great talking to you. Have a good luck.
As usual, you too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.